Welcome to Eastlake. We are an inclusive faith community dedicated to the free search for truth and meaning, seeking to live out a more just and life-giving spirituality in the modern world. We see faith as less about doctrines and dogmas demanding total agreement, but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others. What unites us is a growing awareness that life is a gift and love is the point. We welcome the entire human family, regardless of race, age, creed, physical abilities, marital or economic status, gender identity, or sexual orientation. So if you are curious and have come to see, if you are tired and have come to rest, if you are grateful and have come to share, if you are journeying and have come to grow, if you are wounded and have come to heal, if you are joyful and have come to shine, welcome home. Today, we hear from Jason Lewis and friends as they begin our new series, Winter is Coming. Please check the description for links to our quarterly Spotify playlist and guided meditation.
So first off, thank you guys so much for being here. I don't know that everybody knows you guys, so would you guys just take like a quick second and just introduce who you are? I mean, I think they know you, but still I think it's important.
I'm Kristen.
Okay. That's it? Okay, so let me help. So this is Kristen. She's very brilliant. She's been a long-time speaker, teacher, manager, and kind of the mastermind of Eastlake. And then you.
I
feel like that's just a better intro.
You should have introduced yourself like that. Okay. I'm Kristen and I'm brilliant. That's what I'm Callie and I'm Jason's little sister.
I'm Annie and I have known both Callie and Jay since about 7th grade. I think you said 9th grade.
Oh yeah, 7th grade. My bad. 7th grade, yeah. And to be clear, Callie is a mom of 2 and is also married to a very lovely and incredibly handsome man named Aziz, who's also Muslim, which I think is important to know because you guys have just different spiritualities in your home. Yep. And then I think, Annie, a part of the reason I was so glad you were able to come is because I think you're one of the most spiritual people I know that's open to so many things and has a lot of really insightful ways of looking at things. And as we've already outlined, Kristen is brilliant. I'm just here because I'm good at rambling, so we'll just move through. Okay. At the start of this series called Winter is Coming, right? This is our first message, and the primary thing that I wanted to start it off with is that I think the reason I titled this series is this first message, which is that holiday season, families coming back into town, also kind of a weird time with like COVID and who can hang out and who you guys stay away from and how we're interacting in this season, but then also to all the pressures of the holidays, and then also relative to our own faith traditions, relative to our own concept of what the holiday means. It's just really filled with a lot. I always feel like I come to this part of the year and I'm like, half excited, but as I've grown older, that I wouldn't call it half. It's turned into a portion of excitement, and now the major part of it is like a little bit of worry and a little bit of fear around like, is it going to go well? Am I going to get anything out of it? Is it going to blow by? And I'll have just spent way more money than I actually had, and had less significant reactions. So I wanted to kind of talk about that and like what this holiday season is and what winter really feels like to us now. And so I think my first question that I want to ask people, just because I think this is the biggest part we have to at least acknowledge, is what are we collectively worried about, dreading? What's the hard part of the season for us? What's the part in this season that you're just like, oh, not again?
Well, I had a moment the other day just kind of thinking about how fast time is going and that the holidays are coming up. And my first thought wasn't like, oh, I'm so excited for, to see my family and for the food and for the connection. It was like, oh, I got to start Christmas shopping. And it was like that pang of like, oh, I have to start getting my presents. And that was like a disappointing thought. I kind of was like, why is that the first thing that I think about?
Do you feel like that's the same for you?
I feel like it's the pressure to create like the feeling of magic, because we talk a lot, I think, in our family where it's like
a Harry Potter.
Literally. No, we talk a lot in our family about like money doesn't buy you happiness, and I truly feel that. But then that also is sometimes more pressure, because it's like, well, if the gifts don't bring the happiness, then what are you going to do to create happiness? You have to have time and like creativity and thought put into like what am I doing for my children to make it feel like Christmas? And I remember once my oldest one was like at the age where she's excited for Christmas, I'm like, oh my God, that's like on me to make that happen. And that realization of like, it's not my parents. Like, it doesn't just happen. Like, I have to do it. And so the gifts are sometimes the easier part because the kids are younger. You can just get them like little things here and there that they've been wanting. But right now we haven't gotten to like big gifts yet, thank God. But it's more just like, you know, like last year, me and Zara, my 6-year-old, we drove around to 3 stores to try to find a gingerbread house so we could build it and play the Christmas music and make that little moment happen. And we did not find one, but we had fun driving around. And she's like, Mom, maybe this one's gonna have it. It didn't happen. But so this year I saw the gingerbread house and I bought it ahead of time. But like, how do you make those moments feel like it's just magic and effortless for your kids?
Yeah. What about you?
I think as I'm getting older, there's just more awareness of expectations that people have for it. And I wish I wasn't this way, but I feel like I try to meet those expectations of like, okay, what are we doing with your family and what are we doing with my family, and is that enough time? And if we're going to do this with them, then we should do this with them. And then kids' expectations, which mine are little too, so they don't have a ton of expectations, but I think you kind of can work yourself into when you're creating those memories, then you're also like possibly creating expectations for the future. And so trying to be, I think I get a little bit like, oh my gosh, it's November 1st. I want to make sure I'm like ready for all these expectations and ready to meet them. And I think that can kill a little bit of the joy for me, but I'm hoping that it creates joy for everyone else in the process, I guess. And like I'll sacrifice my joy so that everybody else can have some, and then I'm not even sure if that's what happens.
Right. No, I agree. I think I'm as like a single dad. The hard part is like I always feel like I can't really create the like family moment, and that's like something that I'm always bummed about because that always felt so fun to me, having the whole squad. And I'm always aware that like one of the distinct things is like it's just going to be you and me, pal, for some of this, you know. And so we still have fun and we still find ways to connect, but it's like watching a movie, and then in the Christmas movie, like the family's all together at the end, and we love each other so much, and it's amazing. And I'm just like, it's me and you, bud. It smells a little bit like farts, and there's like some loose chips on the counter, and like it's like songs playing maybe, but it just doesn't have that same vibe.
It's like that first scene in Santa Claus.
I realized how much I got out of it as a kid, and you really do. You want to recreate that sense of like family and meaning, and I got the same bug of like wanting to make it so magical and special because when I was a kid, I really bit down on that, and so like. I think I have that fear and I dread that, like, is this going to be the year that the kid kind of wakes up and's like, it's not that tight with, you know, Pop, because it's, you know what I mean? It is what it is, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's obviously a challenge for all of us. Another question that's, I think, important to ask is, you know, when we talk about this holiday, all of us grow up in unique circumstances where we have our own dynamic experiences of the holiday, right? And different cultures, different ideas about what the holiday is. Like I remember going over to some kids' houses and like when you find out what their tradition is, you're like, that's weird, dude. You know what I mean? Or like I remember my buddy, shouts out to Jay Nerm, his whole childhood, as soon as December 1st begins, his mom always would leave small presents for every single day leading up to Christmas. And it was like maybe like a new toothbrush or like, you know, whatever.
Please try.
Oh, it's okay. Siri wanted to jump in. She's like, talk about for me.
She's like, oh, my family.
No, but the thing is that it has that same thing, and where like I would bump into all these different traditions, and then like, you know, I grew up with a kid, Andrew Baker, shouts out to that dude, I haven't seen him forever, but he was Jewish, and he had like, you know, we were asking about Hanukkah, and we were asking about like what he was doing, and as you go about this, like we all have our own experience of it, and I'd be curious to know like how you guys relate to the holiday. How do you experience it? What is it about it for you this season that feels good or feels bad, or like what's the tradition in this season for you that you kind of recall or feel?
I think there's like a nostalgia to it, right? It's like thinking about that magic, the traditions were all, my mom, you know, somebody, you know, like December 1st, kind of like Julie or me, would just decorate everything. Shout out to Julie. And yeah, she would decorate everything, and she would really make it really magical. We did, you know, like a present on Christmas Eve, and we'd be so excited about that. And, you know, it would be a lot of like cooking, and we had always had the family at our house. My mom was like definitely is like the matriarch, kind of bringing everyone in, and that to me was the most special part, just kind of the chaos of it. We, you know, thinking back, you know, we didn't really have a ton of like specific traditions outside of kind of the typical, you know, Christmas holiday, and for us it was never, you know, religious at all. It was, you know, we're a spiritual family, at least. All of us but my dad, who believes in like the great cosmic muffin in the sky. That's like the extent of his spirituality. But it has been interesting. You know, my partner's Jewish, and so, you know, I think I'm the only one here without kids yet. And so trying to think about like, how do I build my own traditions? You had mentioned like, oh, my parents aren't there to do that. I have to kind of start doing that. And so it's interesting to kind of talk to him too and think about like, how do we, when we have kids, like how do we want to kind of craft the holiday season, you know, outside of maybe the norm of Christmas. Yeah.
The nostalgia part that you mentioned, I feel like that's what I'm always up against is like, and kind of you were talking about that, like feeling that expectation, but it's kind of, is it their expectation or is it my expectation of what I remember and then me trying to recreate my childhood for my kids, which is lucky enough I had a great childhood, but like for our traditions, we're just trying to obviously like be together and enjoy each other's time. But one of the things I remember was unique for our family that I didn't realize was unique was that we would, whoever opens their present, we would all pay attention while the one person opens the present. So present opening could take hours. There could be intermissions, just depending how many people are there and how many presents you get. But we would always stop and the person would open their full present. We'd talk about it. We'd look at it. We might even open the present out of the box, try it on if it's closed. And then we'd go to some people's house. I remember when I was older.
Free for all.
Free for all. That's
what happened with us too. Free for all case, and I was like,
you guys would do that?
No, we would do one at a time.
Oh, okay.
And then I got married.
But then you saw someone.
A bomb went off.
I won't say I'm like, whose turn is it? Wait, whose turn is it?
That's how it gets like very like. So what we've done now with our parents is that the adults, like we still do that, but then the kids, we just let them rip them all open. But yeah, just trying to like incorporating your family traditions, what works, what's still fun, and then realizing, yeah, other people have traditions. My husband's Muslim. He doesn't celebrate, he didn't grow up celebrating Christmas. He's from Senegal in West Africa, and they kind of celebrate like in a commercial way, but not in the way that we do. So he's just like having fun along for the ride, but I think that's also been something where I have to bring him in to help me with the emotional work that it takes to put on the holidays, because like I know it's not your holiday, but we're in this together, and so like this is a lot to all have on my shoulders. So
does he give you like perspective? Is it helpful to have perspective that's like maybe that's not as important as you?
Yeah. Because he loves the family togetherness of it, and he loves like watching the kids get gifts and that part. But yeah, if it's like I gotta make it to holiday late and I gotta get this and we gotta do that, and he's like, why? Like we never did any of that. We were having a ball as kids. So
and that's the thing. It's like that's not the stuff you probably remember. No. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's like it's not just those little things, right? Yeah. It's the togetherness. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's what like I was thinking about how my grandparents were really good at making traditions out of everything. It was like my grandma used to make us like fold the American flag correctly, and it was like this big ceremony. Like they just did so cool. Traditions. Yeah. They made things special that weren't always special. And I think about that often because I feel like that's what we're trying to do, is to either bring traditions along or make our own. And I was just thinking of like, what's the point of it? Is it the point that like every year we go to this farm to get a Christmas tree, and that's what is special? Or I guess that what I'm trying to figure out the motivation behind all of these things that we do. And I think the importance of tradition is that when you do something over and over again, or when you do something, I think tradition is usually with people, it makes you feel like you belong to something. Yeah. And I think that's in the end what we're trying to do, is like give meaning to something, and when people participate in something meaningful, then they feel meaningful. And I think the Christmas season or the holiday season just gives you a lot of like buckets and opportunities to do those things as in comparison to other times of the year. So I think that's what I've been trying to focus on, is like these are opportunities to create meaning or meaningful experiences for my kids, and trying to kind of figure out, so which ones do I want to do?
Yeah.
What creates the most meaning?
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. Kind of like as you get older, you realize, I think becoming an adult, kind of you realize, meaning, it doesn't just exist. It's not out here and you can grab it, right? You do have to kind of instill it in things and kind of, or infuse it into things, into certain days. And so I think that you hit the nail on the head in terms of what I've been thinking about too, is like traditions are a way for us to make meaning out of something that otherwise, is like, I think life can go by really quickly. And, there's definitely been holidays in the past where maybe I was like in college and I didn't, decorate or celebrate, and it was just another day. And I think that realization of like, oh, this isn't, the day itself isn't necessarily special. It's the traditions, it's the people, it's the, the history of it. So I think it's just an interesting topic. I think holidays bring that up about meaning, which is.
I totally agree. I think that's the other thing I like the most about it, and the one thing that's I tried to do, at least with Huck, which is like wanting to build something where when it comes to that season, that's the part I remember the most vividly when I was younger, which was when it would come to that season, December 1st would hit, I would be like, we're in it. It was like a water that you all of a sudden were like swimming in. And that sensation of like, all I know is that the rest of the year is going to go well. I had that feeling. Whether that was true or not, that was the perspective, right? Is that you were going to be a bit friendlier, a bit kinder. And I think what I try to do is look for opportunities for Huck to create, like you said, that sensation about his life, and to attach it and use other things to help manifest that or ground it. And I realized that like all the random people that we mentioned earlier, those were their ways to go like, it's the good time now. You know what I mean? And especially around here in this state where it gets really rainy, I'm like, man, if I was that guy who got a present every day in Christmas, how much does that build excitement? If I was the kid who gets to open presents for so many days, like every day, I'm like, that would be insane, right? But it's that you realize that your tradition and your method to the madness that is the magic of the holiday is so unique. And the exciting part is that you're a creator. As you get older, you're a creator in that. It could really look like anything. But the one thing that also has changed, and this is like another thing I think would be good to talk about, is it's maybe something that doesn't get talked about, and why parents get caught up in that race of like really trying to get the exact right present. Go to Holiday Lane, make sure you do the big thing, right? And like all that stuff is that you do lose something as you get older. It's different, right? And so there's something where we have to give up, and I'd be interested to know like what you guys feel like you've lost. And I know for me, one of the big things is like I held on to the belief in Saint Nick for as long as I could, and I would argue it and I would rationalize. I build arguments to support the claim. Like I could literally take on anyone. It felt very much like the debate between a theist and a non-theist. I was like, I've got this wired up. Like if you want to, and they'd be like, well, he can't travel anywhere or not. I'm like, it's not a night. It's 24 distinct time zones. And you just have to shift through each one. The day's not exactly 24 hours. It's longer than that. And so like really get down into it. But it wasn't just having to give that up. It was also giving up the reality that like, as you grow older and you experience pain, you now know that the idea of the good season is a choice. It's a thing you make, right? There isn't necessarily such a thing as a good season that doesn't have your hand or will behind it. You may have times of ease, but that sense of like goodness and warmth, that is a thing you have to strive to build. And having lost that kind of freeness, I realize how challenging it can be to impart that in a holiday.
Yeah, because it doesn't come naturally anymore as it did when we were kids. You just thought it's how it is. But as adults, you see behind the curtain. Obviously, I think that is part of growing up. And then you realize that you have to fight for it. You have to fight for that magic. That's like a choice.
I think like having kids has really helped me because I get to see it through their eyes, and Zara, my oldest, is like, she feels like everything is magical, like every day is magical. And so that's so awesome because it takes very little. Like if she sees a movie in like a moment, she wants to live that moment. Like she wants to have hot chocolate with her bathrobe in front of the fireplace, and she feels like that's a thing. And like I get to help her make that, and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm happy to do it, and I get to watch her enjoy it. But at the same token, she also can very easily get carried away with her expectations, and trying to meet that is hard. And I remember last year they asked her on her virtual schooling, like, what's a tradition that everyone's going to do? And she told them, I heard her because I was in a meeting in the other room, like, every year, we give food to people that need it, which is great. We hadn't done that, like, in a structured way that she had said that we would do. Like, oh, we go down to the shelter and we're dropping it off. I'm like, what are you talking about? And after class, I was like, what? So what did you tell them? And show me the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, that's a lie because we've not done that. Sweet, we've not done it. And so I made her clean the whole pantry out, top to bottom, as a not as a punishment, as just like a thing, like, hey, if you're gonna say you did that, you really got to do it. Like, let's make it a tradition. So that's something we did, and to see her go through the work of like doing that, and we've had moments like that with Mom where we're just like, okay, geez, we're in it, but it ends up being the funnest thing.
Yeah.
And so we were having so much fun together, and so what I've lost, like, for a few years I didn't have, I gained back with my kid, where like I'm seeing her like cleaning out and getting the cans, and then we went and we did give it to people, and it was so fun, and we get to talk about it, and she's like, Mom, that was so fun, that was whatever. And that, for me, I get to, all the hard work ends up being worth it because I get to get it through her, kind of. So
well, I think for my family, my nephew passed away in December, and so that obviously changed the like magic of the season for so long, and still does. So I think it's an interesting road to walk, where we're very aware of pain and loss and grief in this like specific time when everything's supposed to be so magical. I think that's definitely just been a loss along the way, but I think it also helps to emphasize like why you feel that loss so deeply is because of how much you love. And so it's just such an interesting pairing of like the most wonderful time of the year and so much excitement and so many things that are supposed to be fun, and then at the same time you're feeling the heaviness and the weight of reality. And maybe I wish I could like suspend. I feel like there's a suspense of reality in the holiday season that I think people really like. Is really neat. I like an escape from that, and I feel like I don't really like escape that anymore. Like it used to be this infusement of everything's magic and everything's so fun, and I definitely don't have that anymore. But having kids has helped too. They have helped make it more special and more exciting.
But you do feel it is easy to feel grief so much harder in this time too. Like you're saying,
probably for everyone who's experienced loss, I think, you carry them both into the season.
But the time is also so imbued with that sense of connection and oneness.
Yeah.
And so there's a natural trigger and reminder that like, I cannot connect with this person.
Yeah.
So and at the same time, you may have novel moments of being able to connect with the other people you love. So it is like a melancholic kind of experience. And I definitely think that's what, anytime I look at like my granny or I look at people, especially that are older, I'm like, I wonder what you know that I don't. Like when you think about when you were 10 and how you viewed your parents' holiday, they're like, they're happy, they love it, we all love it, everybody loves it. You know what I mean? And you're like, actually, it's not that straightforward, but you're little. You know what I mean? And then it's like, I still think a part of me is like little, where I'm like, I wonder when someone's 70 or 80 and they may have lost a partner and they may have lost a child and some of their friends, if they're like, this is hard, this season's hard. You know what I mean? I've watched it change for me in so many ways throughout my life. And it kind of leads into the next thing I'm curious about, which is for you guys, it begs this question. That's kind of why I started here, which is like, what do you hope it feels like? What's your hope for this, this season? Because I think walking in with a certain sense of intentionality and the awareness that like, not only do our kids show up with expectations and our families and blah, blah, but we do. I do. I show up with this expectation of like, I better have my mind blown, right? Like, that's definitely how I walk in. As for sure, I walk into the holiday season. Like, I better, my job better.
This and be like, I knew it.
Yeah, my job better hit the ground one time. And it's not like, it's not necessarily gifts, but it's like, I mean, like, there's no way I don't hope for like eating a dinner and having that big, like, I am the guy for sure if everybody's around and everyone's laughing, I am the guy that will fully remove myself from it, almost out of body, and watch it all. And be like, because I just know it will choke me up. I'm aware how precious it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I think from my job, how brutal life can be. Yeah. So I'm like, and how unfair. Yeah. And so when I know that it's good, I'm always like, it's a fluke. And you get to witness this just miraculous oddity where everything right now, even if it's just this a moment, there's an eternal nature to it. And if you can like watch it happen, you're like, boy, how lucky are we? You know what I mean? Even in the face of so much other stuff, you're like, it's just lucky. And that's like the thing. So I'm like, I walk in with a big hope for the season. If anything, just to have as many of those moments as I can. You know, I think that's my big hope for the season. Is like, I just want those moments because they carry me through the year. When I go on a bad call and I see something really unfortunate happen to an innocent person, or when I myself go through misfortune in my life, I'm like, yeah, it's hard. And then and then there's still like really lovely things that I'll get to visit again, you know? So
I think we're fortunate enough, like, to have that family dynamic that is so, like, we can look forward to it and we're excited. We have, obviously, we have issues and our own things, but it's not all perfect. To be clear, we're messed up. But it's we know that the likelihood of getting our family together is going to be really fun and really enjoyable. And I think that's what I'm always hoping for, is to make really special lifelong memories for myself and for my kids. But that's what I'm always looking for, like something that really makes like a core memory that's like, this was so cool. And it's not always like like you said, it's not always the present. Sometimes it is like the moment around the present, like when you're little, the thing you were hoping for, and then they saved it to the last one you didn't think you were gonna get, and you got it. You know,
my first Nintendo blew me away.
Sometimes it is that.
It floored me.
But sometimes it's just like, you know, making me and Heather, your ex-wife, like, we always joke around about the time that we were making almond roca for the first or last time. We burned it, but it was so fun, and we had like the best time. And she's always like, oh my God, we should make candy again. We're not good at it, but we're always like, yes, we should. So I am always hopeful that we're gonna make like a memory that we're just like, oh my God, remember that year, which luckily we do. And it, like I said, it's not usually around the presents, so that's what
makes me think of Inside Out when you were like the core memories.
Yeah, totally.
Something that you can just hold on to forever.
It makes me think of like, sometimes I can be like the frenetic joy that's like, keep negative ones away, like focusing on like juggling the core ones, putting them in my backpack and carrying them around, you know.
Sadness? No, it doesn't exist. Quiet.
Not today.
We're having a great time over here.
I know, I love that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
When you said at the beginning, there's like this meme that has gone around, or a tweet, or I don't know, whatever it is. Somebody said this about how when they're older, they realize the magic of Christmas was just a mom who really loved them so much, or a dad. I think this person said, my mom who really loved me so much. And I think I don't want my kids to be like, oh, my mom loves me so much. That's not the point. But like, I hope that in all the little baskets of things that we do, these memories that we create, that eventually they look back and they see, this was because my mom and dad loved us so much that, you know, they stayed up late stringing snowflakes around the ceiling, or they did the gingerbread house, and even though it was crazy, messy, and all those things. But I just hope that all the experiences that we create infuse them just with the fact that they're so beloved, not that they get this certain thing or that certain thing. I think I'm just hoping that in the end, that's what they feel and see.
I think part of it too is like, I guess for me, when I'm thinking about this, you know, again, you know, not having kids yet, it's kind of like, it's really about presence for me, and presence, being present. You know, my parents are getting older, and I think a lot about like the time that we have together, and how quickly time goes. And I think that often happens for me through the holidays, probably for everyone, but where all of a sudden it's just like, it's over. And like, you know, you're talking about like, oh, it's the good season. So you think about like, oh my gosh, well now I'm facing like February, March, and like what happens, you know, it's just like life moves so quickly. So I think, you know, when I kind of visualize the upcoming holiday, I really want to kind of sit in that place of like groundedness and presence, and really just be able to kind of sit back and observe. And I think that's how we do make those core memories, right? Is we really like attach a meaning to just to being together. So I think that's at least my goal for this next holiday.
Especially after COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's a unique opportunity to reconnect over things.
And make excuses too. Like, just feel like it's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a
We
while.
are in the season. Let's
Yeah.
make it, let's find a way.
And maybe there was like some monotony. I think last year there were some special things about like for me just being the four of us. But I think, so I'm thankful for that. I'm also like, oh, it really does matter to me that we get to be in the same room as grandparents. And I think I will look at that and feel that differently because of like the last while.
Is there anything, and this is kind of the last thing I was hoping to kind of wrap up on, which is just, is there, for you, is there anything that you guys uniquely do now, like in your own families? I'd be interested to just hear, because I think all of us, like we talked about, we're all trying to find ways to imbue meaning into this season, right? We're all trying to find ways to feel connected to one another. We're all trying to find ways to experience the magic or create the magic. And we all have a different way we've been trying to go about that. And I think it's always useful to hear everyone's unique perspective on kind of like what that looks like, because like you said, that it's how we love. It can be one of the ways we love and express ourselves, and that you can always have more tools in your toolkit. You know what I mean? You might think you know every angle, but if someone's like says something, you might be like, oh, that rings true. I should do that. And then also too, like kind of piggybacking on that, like, is there anything that for you experience in the season as a spiritual or an existential reality? Something that you're like, at the core level, one of the reasons I appreciate it, like you said, we choose to give these meanings, right? But even that, there's an existential and a spiritual connotation that we find something about it that is ultimately moving and walks us forward, you know what I mean? Or inspires us or heals us or reminds us in ways that are very valuable to the way we connect with people in our life. So yeah, it's kind of a long question, but I'm always curious to know what people are doing kind of, and then kind of if there's a deeper meaning for you individually.
One thing I just wanted to, so a couple Christmases ago, I convinced my family to, instead of buying anything, to make all of our own presents, which was hysterical. We had my dad.
I'm already laughing. I was like, that sounds insane.
It ended up being my favorite Christmas because it was so meaningful, and that like we really spent a lot of time thinking about what would this person want, and then I have to actually do that and make that. My dad actually like hung sheets up on the den and was in there for probably 5 hours, and he did these incredible drawings, which if you know my dad is not like outwardly the most artistic person, but really it was just like this really awesome opportunity. And so I think taking that and doing something more with that, because I think it really brings you closer to like I'm with these people that I want to celebrate and want to make feel special, and that's kind of part of the point of this kind of connectedness. And then to your second point of the question, I guess the thing I think about and have brought up several times is just the fleeting nature of things, and how it's such a reminder during the holidays to try to really practice like gratitude and really look around at what you have and the people that are in your life, and just appreciate, even if there's difficult people in the family, or if there's strain to some extent. I think it's just such an important kind of reminder that that we need to do that, or that we should be doing that for ourselves.
I feel like we've been talking about like laughter and being together and making those memories, and this year with our family we talked about not doing gifts for the adults and trying to find ways to make those memories, because that can sometimes, depending on where you're at in life, that can be the most inconvenient thing, is to take the time and to spend time with people. And so previously me and my parents and my sister, we did like a at-home like chopped competition, and we made my dad and my sister, who they both don't really cook, we made them go find we gave them 3 ingredients, and then they had to make something out of it. And my sister made like a soy milk fettuccine thing, and then my dad it was
sounds rough. That sounds rough.
My dad made like a spiced rice dish. It was actually pretty good. And then we didn't know who made what, and then we tasted it, and then we judged it, and it wasn't about the food, obviously, because we did not continue to eat the food, but it was just like that fun and for us, kind of like the outlandishness of just like messing up mom's kitchen and just using the ingredients and having fun. And so we talked about wanting to do that again this year, but things like that where they're just out of the ordinary and they feel special because it's like, oh, we don't usually get to do this. So that's something that I'm looking forward to doing. And in terms of, what's the second part of the question?
No, just you're like a kid in class. And excuse me, Mrs. Johnson, what's the second part? No, it was
spirituality.
Is there any spiritual thing, or is there any sort of existential thing? Just something about your life that in this season it either you feel or it means a great deal to you uniquely. So not just like we know what the season's about, but like here's what I'm really experiencing. Here's what means so much to me about it.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just my family, really. Like, when we're together and, like, we're having that, I think, like, the presents, I don't want to come back to presents, but we put a lot of thought into, like, what we give the person. And in our card and the way we wrap them, it's, like, a huge deal in our family. If you bring your present in a bag, just don't even come.
You're not welcome.
But, so it is so much thought, and you wait for sometimes months to, like, give this person this gift. And then when they get it and they're so happy and you feel, or, like, I've seen Mom and Steven give you a gift. Mm-hmm. And I know it's what you want. So I didn't even get the gift or pick it up, but I'm just so excited to watch you get it. Mm-hmm. And like your joy, like that to me is like, it's just so exciting to see. Mm-hmm. Like I just love that for my family. So why are you crying about getting a freaking present?
We like to get stuff in our family. We're very materialistic, and so it's a big deal. We love it when you get things.
Stuff is not
not gonna fly. Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's the best.
I don't know, just being together and like watching the other person be so happy and kind of like just taking a break from how hard life is sometimes is just so meaningful.
We did 2 years ago. We fully did the December 24th 10 p.m. run to Target because my son said he just changed his mind and he was like, this is what Santa's bringing me, and we panicked because we were like, what do we do?
Yeah, we're not trying to kill Nick this early. He's only 5.
Yeah. And so we fully did the
we've done
Andy took off at 10 p.m. We were out of town, so we didn't even know where it was. And then he was like, there were people fighting in the aisles for the last stuff. And got the.
That's a dangerous time.
I know.
A Target at 10 p.m. Christmas Eve is a dangerous spot.
I know. And so we had to figure out ways so that doesn't happen again. This year I made my kids go and kind of clean out some of their toys, and we talked about we're not just here to stash and hoard. Which my kids have a tendency to do. I think maybe all kids have a tendency to just keep stuff. So I'm trying to this year help them understand it's not just about the accumulation of things, but that in certain times in your life, certain things are special. And so, hey, reminder, all these things that you haven't touched in a year are actually not that special to you anymore. So it was kind of a challenge to help them get into that mindset of we don't just keep everything until the end of time, but there's a sense of passing things on. Mm-hmm. And so telling them about how that's what everybody does. They pass things along, and now you don't play with these anymore. So we're going to pass them along to someone who does, and create opportunity for you then to appreciate the new things that are special to you right now. And I feel like it went okay. So I'm like, okay, this is a good time to maybe do that and make that part of it a thing that we do. I think for me, I used to be one of those people that was frustrated with anything about Christmas that wasn't about Jesus, because I was in that evangelical kind of strain of if it's not about Jesus, then you shouldn't be celebrating type thing. I mean, I was a little bit hard.
Stockings. How dare you?
Stockings.
Santa Claus blasphemy.
Oh man, I know. So I feel I've transitioned now into this place of what I think about God is everything infused with that kind of love and that kind of joy. And so anything that does that is an honor to the season and an honor to what I picture celebrating Jesus would be. If that, I think there's a part of me that can't let go of that being part of the season. Mm-hmm. I just am reframing it in a way that makes sense so that all are included in that. Mm-hmm. I think before it was an exclusivity thing, and I think for me, the challenge has been, or the goal has been, to like expand. How expansive can this season be for any and everyone with any sort of belief system or culture or heritage or family dynamics? How can this season be so expansive that everyone finds something in it? And trying to teach my kids that part of it.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the season. I mean, what could be more magical than everybody included?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the most fun. I think we intuitively know that like the part that we've talked about this whole time is the ability to get everyone together to hang out, and so to have ideas and ideologies and beliefs that hold that space makes you feel like you're connected to more people, because you're like, you're with me too, and I'm with you, and I love that feeling. I totally resonate. And then I think like spiritually for me, I think it's just that whether it's the Christ narrative or any other, the Santa Claus or whatever, there's still this great notion, even if it's, solstice related or any of the seasonal trends, it's this concept that new things are beginning, old things are passing away, that same old trend, but also too that like there is some some sort of beating heart of love that's operating, and whether that's us as this collective mass, and we pour our empathy and our grace and our patience and our love into this planet and into one another, and so we more greatly feel it collectively as a species or as a community, or whether there is something that beats at the heart of everything. We get to walk in this season of like being aware that like, man, that is always, I think that's the big thing, is like, this is always such a choice. This is always just such a thing you can choose, right? It seems hard because life is hard and it's overwhelming, but with such an ability to make a reality if we so choose it. And the titanic power we have, not only in the lives of our kids, but our friends, to really show up and blow them out of the water with like acts of love and kindness and words of encouragement and things that are just special and thoughtful. I'm like, you could do this every day. You're just a lazy bastard. And you could you could.
That's what I was saying. I feel like the holiday season provides you with all of these.
It wakes you back up to go like, I can do this. I could have totally done
in
it.
March.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I think that's the biggest thing. So that is I think the big thing for me. And I really want you guys to know that I'm really grateful that you came and you shared and you talked about your experience. And I really think it'll be helpful and fun for people. And I love you all so much. And I hope that what we hope for in this holiday season, we're all able to find. And I hope that anybody who watches, they find it too. So thanks you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jen.
Thank you for joining us. To make a donation, head to eastlakecc.com/donate.